everyone. My wife's sitting sick over here, so she might be making sick noises while we talk. So go ahead, blow your nose. Should be going live on 2 platforms right now, LinkedIn and YouTube. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, YouTube says I'm live. Thursday, Career Club. Oh, yeah. Could we get any more boring? Maybe I could find some boring topics if you want. Oh, it's not saying. Oh, there it is. The live notification on LinkedIn. Welcome to all our viewers. By that, I mean my wife, who's sitting right here. She's the only one viewing. So, I facilitate, I run a career club on every third Thursday of the month at my local community league hall here in Edmonton. And we just talk about resumes, job hunts, cover letters. We even talk about the gigs and side hustles if they want to. So all that stuff kind of happens. And the job market is just so weird and crazy right now. I see the same job posted over and over and over and over again. And I've seen jobs that I've applied for and gotten no response get reposted. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what are they looking for? Which magical purple unicorn are they hoping to hire? You just gotta, the key with hiring is find someone who's got a good attitude and you can train them to do just about anything. If you're looking for somebody who's an expert in everything you currently do, that's nonsense. So I don't, why are we looking for unicorns when we just need a person with a good attitude? And if they leave you, that's fine. Because hopefully they'll leave you for better opportunities and they'll sing your praises when they leave your organization. So I have read probably thousands of resumes at this point, and seeing what works, what doesn't work on a resume, and especially when you're kind of manually reading through it. And I've also used a bit of the Indeed. They go through, the system goes through and it checks for keywords and certain things like that. And I can type in, you're able to type in, sorry, I'm still dealing with a cold here. You can type in the keyword you want. So if you want someone with a certain skill, you can type it in and it'll be in there. And if you don't then Indeed will say, these are your top matches, check them out. I mean, that's great, but that it immediately cuts out people who might be amazing for you. They might be amazing people. They're just not so good at writing resumes. And I just think to myself, well, why do we have to be good at writing resumes? It's we should be good at doing our job, but we're all spending so much time writing resumes and writing cover letters, and then we get, those people who are on employment insurance and they're forced to hand in a piece of paper saying how many jobs they applied for. I've seen people apply for jobs I've advertised for different organizations, and the people who are applying are completely unqualified. Truck driver, 30 years truck driving, no other experience except truck driving. They're applying for a financial analyst role. And that just shows me that they're applying to everything just to prove that they're applying for work so that they can continue getting their EI. But it also means they're being pressured and something's wrong in the job market. Maybe they don't want to be a truck driver anymore. That's fine. But has anyone given them any real direction or real support on what they should be applying for? You're an expert at driving trucks. So what other industries are related to that? You got to really think. Could be taxi driving. Could be Uber in the gig economy. Could be something different. Parts sales for heavy equipment, or dispatcher for the trucking company or something like that, right? Like, you got to think about those related things and how it relates back to your experience. Changing careers is it's a tough thing to do, to go from 30 years doing something to want to be doing something totally different. And it's you got to have a lot of humility and be willing to start from the bottom. Just because you're in your 40s or 50s doesn't mean you deserve to be making at the top of the pay grid for a new industry that you're learning, a new career that you're trying to build. And that's really hard to be going through that. And I think about moms coming back after maternity leaves, and I think we're seeing more with fathers after their pat leave, but mainly moms, women who they take a year or two or even 5 years off to raise their kids, and now they're having trouble getting back into the job market. And I find this strange. Oh, you don't have any recent experience. But then we're in a world where there's half the people really value family and having children, and this is part of their culture, part of their religion. Let's have big families. So why wouldn't we be honoring this properly with our businesses? Why wouldn't we say, yeah, no problem. Oh, your mom coming back from the workforce, let's get you back to work. Like, why wouldn't you honor that? So anyway, I'm not sure where I should start. If you got a question, put it in the comments. Let's get this started with some good comments. I'm gonna go into the live here. I wonder if it'll play it. Yeah, so I get the LinkedIn Live open right now, so hopefully I'll be able to see your comments, and I'll go into the live for YouTube, and hopefully I'll be able to see any comments if you're over there on YouTube. This program should show me all the comments, and I'm using restream.io to stream out. I'm toying with the idea of streaming to other platforms. I don't know. I got to get a hang of this first before I start expanding out too much. But maybe it's a good idea that I just hit everything all at once. I don't know. But I don't know. I guess I can talk about resumes right now. Let's just have some general chat. So I get people contacting me to review the resumes, and usually it's just resume tips. I'm like, oh, well, you can improve on this and do this. And I think the major thing you need to do for your resume is to make sure you have all your industry keywords, the lingo, the jargon. Make sure they're there, all spelled out. Make sure you've got, if there's an acronym you use, go ahead, put the acronym in there, but also use the whole expanded name for that acronym, because you got to get past that automated system, the AI that is vetting you. I think there's a large number of resumes that go out that a live human never sees because you missed keywords. And that is just so vital. I think the next important thing is keep to a more traditional resume layout, because these systems, the automated systems, they're reading it the way it is. And I would use a Word document. Use your Word document. Send that version in. Don't send in the PDF. So there's no confusion for the system to read it. And we get some kind of these futuristic, well, not futuristic, more modern looking resumes where there's a couple columns, and on one column you have your work experience, like traditionally, but in the other column you're listing all your skills and other facts about yourself. And those two columns confuse the AI and the automatic reading systems. So just keep it simple, line by line. Don't use the columns. And I mean, they look great. They look fantastic. And maybe in the future the systems are going to get better. But for right now, I would continue with a traditional looking resume. And I like to see this really starts to feel more like a preference for me. I like to see all your skills and skills. A lot of people will have this list of skills. These are my skills, right? They're out there, and these are all the programs you know, the different things you know from your industry or your career. I mean, that's great for getting the keywords in, but it doesn't give me any background of where you use that skill. So if you say you're dedicated and that's in your skill list, I look at that and I'm like, prove it to me. Prove it to me that you're dedicated. So you do that. Instead of putting dedicated in some skills list, you go down to your last job and you say, I always arrived early to open up the business, and I always stayed late and helped clean up. That's dedication, right? You could use the word in there. I was dedicated to this role because I always arrived early and I always stayed late to help clean up, right? This is a better way to say I'm dedicated. And we seem to think that we need to write I'm dedicated. I don't think that's a value add. I think you need to just say what you were doing at that job, at that experience where you were working. And that will sound like dedication, right? I don't think if you see a job ad that says we're looking for dedicated workers, that to me is actually a red flag. Don't dedicated workers. It means they have a history of problems where people are quitting on them. And maybe you don't want to work there if they're saying we need dedicated workers. And I think there's a lot of red flags you can see in job ads. Do you enjoy working in a fast-paced environment? Oh, that probably means there's all kinds of confusion and they're short-staffed, things like that. So watch out for those red flags. They might appeal to someone who's type A. Oh, they love working. They love being busy and things like that. Well, if there's, I also thought about the jargon for the realty industry. This cozy apartment, like we know cozy is code for small and things like that. So it's the same thing with job ads. If there's certain words, certain vernacular that they're using, that's a red flag. That means they're having trouble getting people and they're getting frustrated because people keep quitting on them, and now they're being just super strict with their job ad. Like, don't even apply if you can't work 100 hours a week. Don't even apply. Like that's a giant red flag. So don't apply to that one. And you see a job ad like that, they deserve what they get. But unfortunately, when we are searching for work and we need work and we need a job, we get into that place where just apply for everything, just everything. And I've been there, but I know there's certain jobs that I can't handle. I used to do retail. I used to work at video stores, and I would have to basically stand there for my 8-hour shift running a till. I can't do that anymore. There's just no way I could stand for 8 hours running the till. So that cuts a lot of possibilities out for me. And you've got to think about that when you're applying for jobs. Is it really something that you're going to want? And is it going to advance you in your career? But like I said, we don't all have that privilege to be able to say, I can wait for a better position. Sometimes you do have to take that right now job. But I encourage everybody, the first step to getting an interview is making sure your resume is good. And there's a lot of free stuff out there that can help you build your resume or help you improve your resume. You just have to be careful when you use things like AI tools. But you'll be surprised at what AI can pull out when you put your old resume into AI and you ask AI to ask you questions about your career and your experiences and stuff like that. You'll be surprised at how the descriptions come back, and it feels a little what's the word I'm looking for, when you feel like you're a poser, you're lying or whatever, right? you're over exaggerating your experience, but what you're doing can be written in a different way. And it's the same, but it sounds better. It sounds more professional. So we kind of try to tone down, really, if you're an expert at something, go ahead, use the word expert. But a lot of times we don't want to toot our own horn and, advocate for ourselves. And we downplay our experiences. But I would encourage you to use some AI and get some support with your resume. The way I like to do it, you get yourself a solid resume that's geared towards the future career you want. And if you're thinking you might, like right now you're deciding, well, I could be doing this or I could be doing that, you should write a whole different resume that's geared toward each career. And then you would just use that one resume for jobs related to that career. But every job you apply for, you definitely need to be creating a new resume. Or, not new resume, jeez. A new cover letter. There should be a new cover letter for every job. And if you train AI, current employers aren't going to like this. And it's going to almost seem taboo. If you train your AI about you and who you are, and then in that chat, I like to use ChatGPT for all my stuff. If you train it, this is me, this is my life, this is my career. You take all your stuff from LinkedIn and put it into the chat, and just every job you've ever had, you can throw it into that chat, and ChatGPT will know you. It'll know your style even. So you copy and paste the entire job ad for the job you want to apply for. You copy and paste it and you put it into ChatGPT. You start off by saying, hey, write me a cover letter for this job. And then you paste in the job ad. And it'll run through and it'll create you a cover letter. I want to say draft cover letter because you still want to review it, make any changes, because like I say, it might use words or references or phrases that you don't feel comfortable at using. It knows you, so that might be the truth, but that's not the way you feel comfortable being described. So you want to go in, make sure all the grammar is correct and things like that. I'm in Canada, so we use a lot of British spelling for words, which is different from the US spelling of words. So things like that you want to check out. Sometimes AI will put in the M dash, the really long dash for no apparent reason when a comma would do. Or the new AI, the ChatGPT 5, is actually putting an extra space at the start of paragraphs. So go in and check these things so it's not too obvious that you used AI, but it's happening. And I think employers have got to get used to the fact that employees are using these tools. And if anything, that should be something you need to put on your resume. My God, I've been learning so much about AI lately, ChatGPT, the Canva AI to help me create images. I need to put that on my resume. Why haven't I put that on my resume yet? I'm definitely not an expert in AI, but I've used AI. I've started to use AI, and I've dabbled with make.com to try to create an AI system, an AI workflow using all these different programs and stuff like that. So you got to start learning AI. You got to learn AI. I mean, if you take anything away from this on your job hunt, your career, you're advancing your career, learn AI. There's going to be certain industries where they're like, don't use AI. And I think maybe governments, there'll be certain rules about which AI you can use and things like that. But there's people using AI to create answers to emails, right? And they can you can put in the whole conversation and say, this is what I sent, this is what they sent back. How should I reply? And AI is going to create this draft for you. At this point, I'm recommending that you review everything that comes out of AI and make sure it's correct. With the new ChatGPT 5, I think there is less than a 1% chance that it will make a mistake. The old ChatGPT 4, I guess there was a 6 or 4% chance that it might make a mistake. It just might make up some random facts or something, right? So, but now it's gotten better. And as we move forward with our AI, it's gonna continue getting better. People are not using Google as much to Google things. Now they're AIing stuff, right? You put your question into AI, and they're getting their information from the AI. And that's okay. You need to be an expert in AI. So you need to start using AI. Go get your free ChatGPT account right now. Open it right now and ask it whatever you've been thinking about lately and say, hey, research on this. I want to know everything you know about this. Or I like to do stuff like, tell me what the top 5 issues in human resources is, or, something like that. And then I say, great, can you create me 2 posts for LinkedIn for each of these topics? So I get 10, because there's 5 of them. So I get 10 different posts, and I can say, can you make all the posts at least 200 words long? And can you recommend what type of image I should use? So I use ChatGPT's recommended image info, and I put it into Canva AI, and it helps me create an image, and it's really kind of neat. But you need to start learning AI. I'm barely touching the surface on what AI can do. So I think no matter what industry you're going to be in, AI is going to start being used, and you want to become the expert in your industry on how you can use AI. Sorry, this cold is still getting me. Just checking to see if anyone's put any comments in. I don't see any comments. I know there's a lag time between my live broadcast and it being shown on LinkedIn and YouTube. It's about 30 to 45 second lag time, so that's okay. I guess it's okay. It's just something I gotta get used to. Where are we? We're talking resumes. We've been on for half an hour now. So these are some of the tips I give people with their resumes. So use normal margin and use a font size of about 11 or 12. And I say use normal margins because the white space helps people to be able to see and read your resume. If you've got narrow margins and your writing is right to the sides and the top, and you use a small font because you've been told some fallacy about how your resume should only be 1 or 2 pages, so you jam this down, and it makes it really hard to read. I've literally sat in front of 500 resumes and had to sort them out. And depending on the experiences, and I would have to label them, tag them, give them some sort of rating, and put them in different piles and stuff like that. And if you're a real person looking at these resumes, 5 to 10 seconds, that's the time I'm spending on your resume. 5 to 10 seconds. And I'm going through 500 of them. So when I come across a resume that's completely different and I don't know where to look to find the initial information I need, I'm like, this doesn't look like it, right? And it gets thrown away or it gets put in the discard pile. And that's like the first review. And basically you're just looking, have they worked in the industry before? Okay, yes, okay. Or I used to sort out heavy equipment operators for a construction company. So I would have to decide where they were on that experience for heavy equipment, because you start off with things like rock truck and packer, and these are kind of like level 1 operator stuff, and then you move on to like, can't remember if it's front end loader. You move into like front end loader and driving a bulldozer type thing, and that's like a level 2 for me. And then you've got the excavator operator, that's like level 3. And then you have the grader operators who are grading the road. So that's like a level 4 when I'm looking at experience for heavy equipment operators. And I had to sort that out, and I had to see that quickly. And 5 to 10 seconds to get that initial check. And I'm sorting them out into the piles. So if you're writing too small, if you got too much info and it's right to the margins, my eyes are sore. I just spent the last 3 hours going through resumes. I'm missing stuff. I'm missing your experience. You've opted yourself out automatically, right? Normal margins, 11 to 12 font. And if your resume has to be 5 pages long, then it has to be 5 pages long. I think the fallacy of 1 to 2 pages was because, owners and manager are busy and they don't have time to read a 5-page resume. Well, nobody reads a 5-page resume on the first go around. They just look at job titles and say yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. Then they look at all the yeses, right? And that's where they review it more. And the more info you can give, the better. If you just say, I'm a heavy equipment operator, that's it. For the last 20 years, I've been operating heavy equipment. Which equipment? Right? So now, the other candidate says, heavy equipment operator. These are all the equipment and about how many years or months experience I had running this equipment for each job I had. Right? That's more useful. And even getting a little more detailed. I ran bulldozer. Okay, that's great. What were you using that bulldozer for? What sorts of things? I built oil lease berms with the bulldozer. I was at the dump filling in the garbage. I used the ripper on the back of the bulldozer to help open up leases at the mine site. I drove the bulldozer on the side of a mountain flattening out roads, or like there's sorry, there's so many things you can add in there, because just driving bulldozer doesn't mean you know everything, right? You could have been just flattening land. Were you knocking down trees? Right? There's all the different things you could be doing with the bulldozer. You got to get as detailed as possible in there. I spoke about columns. Yes, get rid of the columns, because the automatic resume readers right now can confuse it. Can get confused by what's going on. So keep it simple for now. But like I say, in the future, with AI getting better, you might not have to worry about this in the future. Yeah, use that standard resume type. It's a traditional, right? It's got your info. It's got some sort of summary, a short summary, 1 or 2 short paragraphs, and then it goes right into the most important things, which is normally work experience. And then after that would be education. And then after that would be volunteer experience. Now, if you're in academia, you're a researcher or something like that, you got your PhD or something like that, your education might come first. And that's the only time I would put the education first. I've got this PhD, this master's, this bachelor's degree, and I've got multiple certificates. That's my education, right? Only if you're in academia or something related to education or research or really high-tech, cutting-edge stuff, right? They're going to want to make sure that you have this certain type of education, and that's the most important thing to them. But for the rest of us, our work experience is more important, and we need to make sure that's displayed. Do not put your exact address. Simply provide your city and your province or state and country. That's it. Don't put your postal code or what's it called in your zip code in the United States. Don't do that, because I can take your postal code, put it into Google Maps, and I can see the exact street where you live, because that's where the postal code is based on. So I know you live in this neighborhood. I know you live on this part of town. I know you live in this bad neighborhood. I know you're going to be late every day because it's a 2-hour commute from that end of the city to this end of the city, right? Suddenly I can be biased against you because I know where you live. Don't share that information. Where you live has no justification with your job, has no effect on your job. They don't know if you own a vehicle, or if you're walking, or if you're biking, or if you're taking the bus or the train. They don't know that. That's not their concern. If they're worried about a person being late before they even hire the person, that's a red flag. Red. And the automatic systems where you apply for a job, they force you to put in your address on most of them. There was one recently I saw that didn't demand my address, but I think it still wanted my postal code. So that's a hard part. When you're applying through email, you can protect yourself this way by just putting, I'm in Edmonton, Alberta. This is my name. right? You don't want to be judged by where you live. Now, I'm not sure about this next one anymore. I used to recommend that everybody put their LinkedIn profile link up there. So, you'd have your telephone number, your email address, and then you have your LinkedIn profile. Sorry, forgot to turn off the mic. There's a hair that's like sticking up and it's driving me nuts. Oh my God, a different one. So, with your LinkedIn profile, it's really important that your LinkedIn profile, if you're job searching, it's really important that your LinkedIn profile has as much as you can put in. All your experience, the keywords, just like your resume, you want to just fill it up. It's important because if someone's searching for people on LinkedIn based on their experience or something like that, they can find you. But thinking about strategically, you've created a resume for a specific career you want, and now you've created a cover letter for the specific job you're applying for. If you share your LinkedIn profile, it now has all your experience, and you might be using your LinkedIn as like a platform for you to be doing your side hustle or your business. And that's I think that's a major problem I have. I think people look at my LinkedIn and there's like, oh, he's running his own business. So I don't think he's going to be a good candidate for working as the HR manager for our nonprofit, right? Like, so it's I'm 50-50 on it now, because you can add a whole bunch more info on your LinkedIn profile that maybe you don't want to put on your resumes, but it could still be useful to the company you're applying for. And if the recruiter looks at your LinkedIn profile and says, oh, he's got a little bit of this, we kind of need someone with that experience, it really could be a good thing. Now, I think if you're job hunting, this might be a good idea. But if you've got a business or side hustle or something that you're also trying to build, it might not be a good thing. So I'm kind of 50-50 on it. And a couple of the HR manager roles that I've discovered, and I would love to work for a nonprofit as their HR manager or even CEO or something like that, right? I would love that type of role. So when I see those, I apply for them. So I've tried a few recently where I'm not putting my LinkedIn on my resume and just seeing how that goes to see if there's any difference. Because I tell people not to put their photo on their resume when I see resumes from India. That's a common practice where they have their photo. I think possibly Japan might be like that too, where they have their photo. And US, Canada, Great Britain, like, you need to not give anyone any reason to be racist toward you, whether it's covert or overt. They need to not look at your photo and say, I don't know if I would enjoy being around that person, right? There's this covert racism that comes out, and so don't put your photo. And if you're worried about racism coming through, maybe don't put that LinkedIn profile picture link on there. They could probably find you. They can search your name and find you on LinkedIn. I mean, but they got to do a little bit more work. They just don't have click on your profile, right? Make it hard for them. If they don't want to do the extra work, that's fine. That's a bonus for you if you're thinking it's going to affect you negatively. Yeah. So when I think about your resume, because LinkedIn, you can put absolutely everything in there. You can put your whole 20 or 30-year career worth of jobs in there. So it shows, hey, Chan. Oh, Chan the cat. Oh, no. So you can put everything in there. But you shouldn't do that on your resume. Otherwise, you will have that 30-page resume that you shouldn't be sending in. I would say maximum the last 10 years worth of experience. All your jobs that you've had within the last 10 years. And this makes it a little bit hard when you think about someone who's coming back from being injured, or someone coming off mat leave or pat leave, where you've been out of work for the last 3 to 5 years, right? You may go ahead and do more experience so they can see more. And because that's a hard job to go from time off for multiple years to coming back into the job market. And I don't know why it's such a hard thing, or why it's such a big deal for organizations. And they just grill you. Oh, why were you off? Why weren't you working? Like it's some sort of bad thing that you were healing up, looking after family, right? Health and family. These are amazing reasons to be missing work. They shouldn't be frowned upon, right? I spent the last 5 years looking after my kids. Now they're all finally in school, so I can start working again. This is amazing, especially if you're a religious person or something like that. You should be happy that someone had kids and that we're looking after their kids, and now that they're coming back to work, you know they got some good values that probably match your values, the family values. So yeah, unrelated experience, yes. There's something I always see. I think this is really, I don't see this too much with people that are from Canada and the US. I see it more with people that are coming from other countries, the new Canadians, the new immigrants. They'll put down their job title or the title they want. So it would be like me starting my resume. It's Ian Hopfey. I live in Edmonton. Here's my telephone number and email address. Human Resources Manager, right? And it seems almost redundant, but it is certainly limiting, because now you're trying to use that resume for certain other things, not just human resources manager roles. Maybe you're trying to go for CEO, COO, or even CFO, these other type jobs that are like a natural progression for someone in my industry. And it's almost presumptuous, but what if you apply for a job and your resume says human resources manager, and they're like, oh, well, we got a better candidate for that, but maybe Ian wants to be a human resources advisor, right? It's the next level down. It's not a manager role. But they're going to look at that resume and they're going to say, oh, he just wants a manager role, so we won't even consider him for the advisor role. Sorry. Throat getting dry, coughing. So don't put your job title up there. They know what role you're applying for because you applied for that role. So you don't need to announce that. It's a waste of real estate. So your summary up at the top where I say a couple paragraphs, you kind of want to more center on things like your career direction. I would say I'm an experienced human resources consultant. I'm looking for human resources manager roles or director of human resources roles, preferably in a nonprofit or a small to medium-sized business, right? Like I'd put something like that. Kind of touches on your experience, but it doesn't go too much. It just kind of addresses me. Where am I going? What is my plan? If you have a current job, I'm currently working as a human resources advisor, and I'm looking to move into a human resources manager role, and I'm willing to go into an organization where I have the ability to advance my career internally, right? You put something like that. For the second paragraph, you might want to put in your languages. I speak fluent English, and I speak Spanish and French, and I'm currently learning what's a cool language? I'm currently learning Italian, right? If you know a lot of languages, put them in. When I think about someone who can speak a lot of languages, I actually consider them lucky and probably smarter than me, because I can barely speak English, and unfortunately I only know a little bit of my language, Sakau Cree from northern Alberta. My mother's fluent in Cree. I'm not. I only know a little bit to understand when she's speaking Cree. So I really envy when people can speak a lot of languages. And I think that's something you need to be proud of. And you need to put that information on your resume. And it's it can be so valuable. What am I looking for here? Yeah. No, I was just double checking to see if anybody made any comments that I can't see. Please ask your questions. I'm totally open for questions. The whole point of doing this is to be interactive and get questions that I can ask. And then instead of me just rambling, talking about stuff, I can give you more direct advice. And that's certainly more enjoyable for me. So hopefully it'll be more valuable for you. So don't be scared. If you're watching, even if you're watching this live after it's done and it's been posted, go ahead, put your comments, make a comment in the live comments, and I will try to address them in the next live or even in the comments. So, your summary. All too often, I see people making it a paragraph form of a list of skills. Again, just like having a list of skills, there's no proof of where you learned the skills, so it's not associated with a job. And it's these things like, I'm a dedicated worker, or I'm a hard worker. There's no way to prove that when you say that. I'm a hard worker. That's the first thing that comes out of people's mouths, especially when they're desperate for work or something like that. I'm a hard worker, hire me. Like, that doesn't mean anything. Put in the experience why you're a hard worker. I'm a hard worker. I met my quota every time for 6 months, and I even was the top earner, whatever, right? That proves that you're a hard worker. And not just I'm a hard worker. But it becomes this list of skills, unprovable skills, unrelated skills. That's a waste of your time. Put those skills into the job experience where you learned it or gained that skill. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, but keep that summary short. 1 or 2 short paragraphs, 2 or 3 sentences in each one, right? Personal interest section. This is such a blast from the past. This is basically a scammy way for organizations to learn more about you, to get personal information from you. What you do in your personal life is none of their business. You should not share any of your personal stuff on your resume, right? I used to see this even in the 90s and the 2000s. It's slowly disappearing now. I don't see it very often at all, but it still happens. Personal interest. I like to golf. I like to go to the shooting range. I'm part of a cigar club. I volunteer for my church, or volunteering, that's a different thing. But having these personal things, I like to read books. I like to play video games. Who cares? They're just using this information to help vet you. They're like, oh, this person likes to golf. So as the CEO, I might be able to get them to come golf with me now and again. Or, personal interest, travel. I love to travel. This, I've seen organizations say, we don't want anyone who says they travel, because it means they're going to ask for time off and they're going to be gone all the time, right? Because they're traveling. That's life. It's just bizarre. Travel's a bad thing. If you put something down, they can find a way to make it a bad thing. Even the golfing analogy, they'll be like, oh, this person's gonna be, they'll call in sick on nice days because we know they're gonna go golfing. Right? Like, these personal things are nobody's business. They're just trying to dig up more information, and it's none of their business. This is stuff you shouldn't tell your employer. They have no business knowing anything about you outside of your work experience and your education. So what was I was about to think about something. Yeah, these are reasons to discriminate against you if you share too much personal stuff. There was something. I forgot. I was about to. It was good too. It probably wasn't good. But if you got volunteer experience, put that in your volunteer experience, right? But certainly no personal interest section. That's a big no-no as far as I'm concerned. I just wanted to tell everyone I have a hard stop at 1 p.m. Before I scheduled all these lives, I scheduled a meeting that I have to be at 1 o'clock. So I'll be shutting down within the next half hour. But we'll continue to go through these resume tip things here. When you look at your work experience, I try to force people to write as much as possible, because you had that list of skills, and your summary might have been just a paragraph form of the same skills. Take all those skills and turn it into a sentence, bulleted points under each job where you learned it or you experienced it or whatever, right? And I say, because I'm forcing you to write as much as possible about that job, I say you get at least 10 bullet points for each work experience. You're thinking, oh, well, how do I get 10 bullet points or whatever, right? Well, figure it out. What programs did you use? Write a sentence for each program. How did you use those programs, right? I used XYZ program to do this for the organization. You work retail. I use this type of retail software or this type of till equipment. I use the Interact debit machine, and I was the one in charge of troubleshooting it and calling Moneris when there was an issue, right? Like, explain everything. There's certain roles that we have preconceptions about, and they may not reflect what you really did in that role. I always talk about administrative assistant, admin assistant, right? You think, oh, a certain type of work they do. Paperwork, filing, writing letters, getting coffee for the CEO, covering at reception when the receptionist is gone, photocopying, getting printing stuff and getting documents ready for meetings, prepping the boardroom, making sure there's fresh water and donuts in the boardroom, and picking up the boss's dry cleaning or whatever, right? You get this preconception. But did I mention this admin assistant also does accounts receivable or accounts payable? And they were in charge of basically the bookkeeping for the whole organization? Or they covered for the operations manager when the operations manager was on vacation? All of a sudden there's a bit of management experience in there. All of a sudden there's these tasks that you don't naturally associate with a position. So saying admin assistant, it's not a given of, people knowing exactly what you did. It's absolutely not a given. So you still need to get in there and write down every task you did, especially the ones that might lead to management or changing careers, because maybe you're going from admin assistant to finance clerk, right? And essentially, as a admin assistant, you were doing all the finance clerk work for this other organization, right? It's just called something else. So there's preconceptions about the title. So don't assume that by just putting your job title in is going to tell everyone the type of work you did. Because it's not. Because I guarantee you there's things you were doing for your current or previous role that could have helped you get into a different role. So get at least 10 bullet points. And if there's more, do more. If you got to put in 20 bullet points for all the amazing stuff you did in your current or previous role, do it. It needs to be there. because it's an opportunity for you to use more keywords, more industry lingo, the slang, that's going to get you through that first vetting system. And it's just so important. And you're thinking, oh, but that's going to make my resume long. If your resume has to be 5 pages long because you're describing your work experience, that's fine. That's totally fine. Because it's getting you the info out there that you need to get out there. And like I say, anything you have currently on a skills list or in your old summary where it was essentially a rehash of your skills, make sure you put it in. This is the first place to look and say, oh, it says I use this program. Well, okay, put it in there in a sentence. The program you used and how you used it, right? When you're doing your bullet points, consider action result sentences. I updated our processes, which resulted in 50% more production the following quarter. Right? Action, this is something I did. Result, this is something which happened. So the more you can get those in, the better. Now, not everything is going to translate that way, but if you think something can be, do it. Because your new employer wants to see what you can do for them, not just your experience, right? I did this and helped my previous employer do this, right? We achieved this goal just because I did this. And the more you can do that, the better. Education bullets. My God. This is something we don't think about. We just put down that we got a bachelor's degree and maybe the vain, those of us who are vain, put down your grade point average. I got 3.5 out of 4 when I graduated. Like, oh yay. I don't share my grade point average. One, because I'm not proud of it. I think I was like 2.6 to get my degree. I'm a terrible student. I'm a terrible, terrible student. I'm terrible with homework. Always been. But I persevered and I got that degree. Right? That means more to me than what your exact grade point average was. The only time I, as an HR person or recruiting role, would even care about grade point averages is if I had 200% identical people in front of me and I needed a tiebreaker. So the odds of having 2 people that are identical is extremely, extremely low. There's always something that's makes this person a little bit better or a little bit worse. But if by the off chance I do come across 2 people that are identical, then I would say, oh, what's their grade point average? And that's only if they give it to me. And I think that might be limiting. If you're not that 3.5 or higher, it might not work to your advantage to get the position, right? So I don't like grade point averages. That's probably just me, who was a bad student with bad marks, being jealous of students with good marks. But the only time I would look at it is in some tiebreaker situation. And in those situations, I actually have more important things to help me with the tiebreaker. We need more women in our organization. I'm going to choose the woman. We need more people of color in our organization. I'm going to choose the people of color. We need more Indigenous people in our organization. I'm going to choose the Indigenous person. That's what I'm using as my tiebreaker. I'm not using the grade point average at all, basically. So, oh God, I got a little off topic, but we're talking about your education experience. Each one of those education experience, you can put bullet points on there, right? Kind of think of your more technical skills, computer programs you used. I wrote reports weekly in Microsoft Office Suite, right? That's good. I had a team project and I was chosen as the team lead and we got 90% on a project, right? Like, there's so many things you could add to your education experience that could give you extra keywords, extra jargon and lingo and things like that. I remember labor relations. I've just been thinking about this lately. One of the women I went to school with, she was opposite me during our labor relations class, and we had to go through negotiations. And each person on each side, we were either the business, the organization, or we were the employees and going through our negotiations. And I could put down that I was in a negotiation simulation and I won. And I mean, it sounds good on my resume, but oh my God, I have felt bad for years. I stomped on her so bad. She could, from what I saw, she could barely defend herself, and I think I might have been rude and talked over her, and I just feel terrible about it years and years later now. And so I've been thinking about her lately, and this is something that I could put in during the simulation. And during simulated employee negotiations, I won my simulation this by whatever. So there's a lot of stuff that you could put in from your education, put in bullets. I'd say try to get 5 bullets for each education, right? With your master's or your PhD, you could be talking about your thesis or any research projects, things like that. You can throw that in there. And if you are going into the academia or something related where the education is great, I mean, that makes your first part, if your education is the front, that makes that section really big and really nice. I would do that for sure. Yeah, if you have a section about languages, I would just create a sentence and put it up in your summary. Don't create another section for languages. Yeah, and the big thing, remove that skills section. It's a list of random skills that are unprovable and unrelated to anything. Put them into the job experience or the education experience or into the volunteer experience, right? There's 3 main sections on the resume. That's work experience, education experience, and volunteer experience. Make sure you're fleshing those sections out. If you haven't volunteered, go volunteer. Here in Edmonton, you can join a local community league. They're always looking for volunteers. You can join the board. You can learn how to run meetings with Robert's Rules of Orders. You could learn finance because you're the treasurer for the board. You could learn marketing because you're the communications person for the board, right? There is so much experience that you can get out of a volunteer. Like, it's not just I volunteered to give out food to the homeless or something, right? Like I was at the soup kitchen and I just scooped out soup. I mean, that's great, but it didn't really give you experience. It gave you world knowledge of more issues happening in the world, right? And it kind of showed that you're a little bit more compassionate. Yes, that's great, but it's not something that you can brag about and say, I have experience doing this because I was volunteering to do it, right? So think about that. That volunteer experience is so important. Go out and volunteer in something. And with your volunteer experience, again, try to get at least five, just like the education. Try to get at least 5 bullet points under each volunteer experience. And if possible, get 10. Depends on what you're doing, right? Of course, the reference section, take it out. References, you don't even have to write the sentence that says references available on request. Who cares? That's part of the process now. It's built in. You put in your resume, they look at it. You normally get a first interview, which you normally a quick phone interview, and then they get back to you and say, we'd like a full interview, and we will bring your references to the interview, or after the interview, we'll ask you for your references, right? So there's no reason to have a reference section or even say references available on request. This is old stuff. Anyone who tells you to do that, they're out to lunch. First and foremost, you might be giving your resume away randomly on the street to someone who might be able to give you a job, right? You're sending your personal information off to 10,000 jobs that you're applying for online. You didn't necessarily get permission to give away your references, cell numbers, email addresses, personal information with your personal information. So you don't want to be just giving this away until they ask for it during the job interview process, the hiring process. So just no reason to put that in. Now, if you're worried about resume page length, 1 to 2 pages, that's a myth as far as I'm concerned. Try to keep it under 5. 2 to 3 pages is probably more reasonable, especially if you're only doing the last 10 years worth of experience. But you're trying to fill it out, each job you're filling out as much as possible, right? But that length is happening in the right place. The experience from your jobs, that it's happening in the right place. So keep it under 5. I believe my resume is just into 5 pages right now. And that's because some of my experience, my volunteer experience, goes over a little bit. Otherwise, it would be about 4 pages. And I want to make sure they have all the information. So don't be scared. If you're trying to get it down to that 1-2 page max, that's a fallacy. You need to get all the information you can to them. Right. If you worked a long time at a certain position, a current position, you might want to get rid of one of the older ones. Maybe it's only 7 years, but you had 2-3 jobs in the last 7 years. If your resume, you feel like it's getting a little long, maybe just take off that older one. Make sure all that information gets put onto your LinkedIn so you don't lose it. So you don't have to try to recreate that information. That's kind of my main tips for writing a resume. And every resume is going to be a little bit different. Next week, I can kind of chat more about cover letters, and maybe I'll run through a demo of ChatGPT, how I would train it to know you. Maybe. I don't know how to do that because I've already trained it. But anyway, I just want to make sure there's no questions coming up on the other platforms. Oh, I don't see anything. That's fine. So I'm going to try to continue doing lives for, I don't know how long. I mean, if I'm not getting traction and getting viewers for the next 6 months, if I don't see any sort of increase, maybe my topics are just too dry and I don't want to do it anymore. But I really want to try to bring some value, and the best way I can do that is if you ask me questions and I try to answer them. So don't be shy, ask your questions, and if you want to book a meeting with me, you can follow the link on the screen right now, and we could have a chat. You can choose the one that's most appropriate for you. We can chat about job stuff. Half an hour free meeting with me, and that's fine. Try to help you out as much as I can. What's this? Join Whatnot. You can see the QR code that shows up at the top here. How do you work this thing? Let's put it over here. Yeah. So put it over to Whatnot. Is a social selling platform. So you're basically kind of live like this, and you're selling products, you're selling stuff. So if you're in a situation where you currently don't have a job and you need to make some money, gather up a bunch of stuff around the house that you have and try to sell it off. Like, who wants to buy one of my collectibles here? Who wants to buy my limited edition Rick Grimes from The Walking Dead, right? You start selling this stuff, and maybe you're going to make $500 this week, and that's just enough to get you your rent paid off, right? And there's people making just killer money on that platform, and it's something I'm thinking about streaming at the same time I'm doing this. But if you want to join Whatnot, go ahead and join with my link there, and you might be able to make a little extra money. If you liked what you saw here today, hey, give me a Google review. I always appreciate that. Give me that 5-star review. And if you don't want to give me a 5-star review, don't give me a review. I mean, obviously, I haven't answered your question. I haven't worked for you directly. So if you got any value out of this live, out of this video, that's a win. That's a win. So give me a review. And I'm going to let you go. I got 7 minutes to run to the washroom before my next meeting. And I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow's live is fun and games. We're going to talk about everything. Games, board games, video games, maybe movies, maybe books, anything that's fun and games to you. It's kind of open. Fun, whatever you think fun is. Come join me. Bring your coffee, come join me. Anyway, I will talk to you later. End stream.